John bolted upright in bed, the sharp scent of burning metal slicing through the cool night air. His heart pounded as he threw off the covers and stumbled toward the window. What he saw made his stomach drop. Flames, bright and violent, licked the sky, turning his farmland into a blazing inferno. His tractors, his irrigation system, his storage shed, everything was on fire. He could feel the heat from inside his house, the flickering light casting eerie shadows against his walls. For a few seconds, he stood frozen, mind racing to make sense of the nightmare before him. Then reality hit like a freight train. Someone had done this. Someone had set his farm ablaze. And he already had a damn good idea who. The fire department arrived within minutes, but by then, it was too late. The damage was catastrophic. John watched in helpless fury as the firefighters battled the flames, their hoses spraying water over the smoldering wreckage. His most expensive equipment was now nothing more than twisted metal and ash. This wasn't just a fire. This was an attack. A deliberate, calculated attempt to ruin him. And there was only one person in town who had both the motive and the audacity to do something this insane: Linda Holloway. Linda had been a thorn in his side from the moment she became the HOA president of the high-end neighborhood bordering his farm. She and her cronies had made it their personal mission to drive him out, claiming his farm was an eyesore that lowered their property values. She had filed noise complaints every time his machinery ran, even during legal working hours. She had petitioned the town council to change zoning laws, trying to get his land reclassified so he would be forced to sell. She even had the nerve to send letters demanding that he plant aesthetic trees to block the view of his fields. But this was a whole new level of crazy. One of the firefighters approached him, face grim. "Looks like arson," he said. "Whoever did this used an accelerant. This wasn't an accident." John clenched his fists so tightly his knuckles turned white. He wanted to scream, to throw something, to march over to Linda's house and demand answers. But he wasn't stupid. He needed proof. At first, it seemed like a lost cause: no footprints, no witnesses, no obvious clues. But then, as he paced the edge of his ruined property, something caught his eye. A small, gaudy piece of plastic lying near the burnt remains of his storage shed. He picked it up, turning it over in his hand. A pink flamingo. John felt a slow grin creep onto his face, though there was nothing remotely funny about this situation. Linda decorated her pristine yard with these tacky birds, always boasting about how they added charm to her property. And now, one of them had somehow made its way onto his farm, right near the center of the fire. It was as if fate itself had decided to serve up evidence on a silver platter. His mind raced. He had security cameras near his barn. If Linda had been anywhere near his property that night, the footage would have caught her. Without wasting another second, he sprinted back to his house and pulled up the security feed on his laptop. The grainy footage loaded, and he fast-forwarded through the evening. His breath hitched as a shadowy figure came into view, someone creeping around his equipment, a gas can in hand. He paused the video. Even in the dim light, he could make out the figure's silhouette. Short, round, unmistakably familiar. Then came the smoking gun. The figure turned slightly, just enough for the camera to catch a glimpse of her face. "Linda." John let out a low whistle. Well, he muttered to himself. "You really did it, didn't you?" His first instinct was to march over to her house and confront her, but that wouldn't get him what he really wanted. No, she needed to pay for this the right way, publicly, legally, and financially. He spent the next few hours making calls, sending the footage to his lawyer, and preparing for war. By morning, he had a plan. He wasn't just going to have Linda arrested. He was going to destroy her life the way she had tried to destroy his. When the police knocked on Linda's door later that day, she answered with her usual smug expression, completely unaware that her entire world was about to collapse. "What is this about?" she asked, arms crossed. One of the officers held up a printed still from the security footage. "Ma'am, do you recognize this image?" Linda's face drained of color. Her mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. "That's ridiculous. This is some kind of trick." John stepped forward, holding up the pink flamingo. "Then maybe you can explain why this little guy was found at the crime scene." For the first time since he had known her, Linda was speechless. The police didn't waste any time. She was placed under arrest on the spot, her carefully curated suburban life crumbling with every passing second. As she was led to the squad car, she turned to John, her face twisted with rage. You think this is over? She hissed. You have no idea who you're messing with. John just smiled, tipping his hat. Oh, I think I do. Because this wasn't over. Not by a long shot. This was just the beginning.